AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride!
Hour 2, off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR, presented by Relief Windows. I'm Matt.
Love you, Matt.
Paul O'Neill.
They're chanting Paul O'Neill's name.
You so. And Mr. Toby Tom Play. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. We'll get you some takeaways from the Saints-Rams preseason game here in about 15 minutes from right now. LSU scrimmage Saturday in Tiger Stadium. Media was not invited to attend. However, as I was told, it was a very well-attended scrimmage. It was the alumni practice, so every former LSU football player was able to attend. They were able to watch in the South Stadium Club. You also had families of players, booster scouts, lots of people. I mean, there's probably 500 people there, as I was told, just sort of a ballpark estimate. So every note I give you is something that I did not see, but something I was told from someone who was there. And I spoke to maybe 7 or 8 different people who were there and sort of cobbled together a lot of different notes and looked for consistencies and was able to put together a practice report, which if you want to read the full report, I have it up at louisianasports.net. And I did a podcast on Locked on LSU podcast YouTube if you want to check that out. But we'll run through this. They ran over 100 plays Saturday in Tiger Stadium. I did ask Lane Kiffin, by the way, on Monday for some scrimmage takeaways. And obviously and notably, Lane Kiffin was vague.
I thought that, we played a lot of plays. I thought that it's going to be very generic that the offense did some good things.
Yeah.
We played a lot of backups on defense, trying to find different guys there because we feel good about a lot of our ones, and so they got a lot of tape and a lot of things to improve on.
Okay. At least he told us it was going to be generic. He ain't lying. A few things. I was told in the early going, the first defense was really good against the first offense. First 2 series, they forced 3 and outs. First offense got going on their third series. They had 4 chunk plays. One was an out route to Jackson Harris. One was a seam route to Winnie Watkins. There was another beautiful ball to Trey'Dez Green that got him on the doorstep of the red zone. Sam Levitt escaped pressure and darted for about 12 yards, got him inside the 20, and then they bogged down and ended up kicking a field goal. But they were able to loosen up. When the twos went, the first 2 series with the twos were Husan Longstreet, then Landon Clark got 1 series with the twos. Longstreet, they netted 2 field goals. Then when Clark went in, they punted. Offense did loosen up late. Winnie Watkins had a big play touchdown. Caden Durham ripped off 2 long runs. I was told about 2 70-yard runs. And actually had one former coach diagram one of the plays for him. I'm not going to get into all the specifics. It's not that part isn't relevant. But what was so interesting in having this play diagrammed, what was evident was how Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss designed this play to get the defense flat-footed to bust the big run. And I think maybe the big takeaway there is, look, LSU's offense, the rushing offense the last 2 years has been atrocious. I mean, literally last and second to last in the SEC. And you may not have an offensive line full of All-Americans, but the scheme is going to yield you a higher rushing total because of how good they are at creating confusion on defense. And then when you throw in Sam Levitt's ability to run as well, that's going to be a dimension you didn't have a year ago, the last 2 years with Garrett Nussmeier. There was just no threat of the quarterback running. With that in place, it's going to make the defenses pause to respect Levitt's ability to run, which makes a lot of sense. So those things were good. Now, I was also told Sam Levitt throwing the ball was just phenomenal. One person who saw the scrimmage used the word, quote, unbelievable. Some said that they didn't realize he had that arm strength, the accuracy. One, I don't mean for this to be blasphemy, but one said it was reminiscent of Jaden Daniels. Like the tight windows, save your 5 jokes. The tight windows, the accuracy, the arm strength, actually maybe a little better arm strength, and his escapability, ability to make plays with his feet. I mean, that sort of thing is encouraging because, and again, I'm giving you someone else's notes, not mine. I didn't see it with my own 2 eyes. But my contention all along with this team has been whatever their ceiling is, 9 wins, playoff, national championship, whatever it is. I don't know what the ceiling is for this team. But whatever it is, they're only going to get there with Sam Levitt playing at his highest level. And it sure sounds like from everyone, even Lane Kiffin last week, used the word awesome to describe Sam Levitt. Remember when he said that he made 2, quote, adult throws? I mean, the people who are seeing him now are gushing about him. And that's great to see because whatever this team is going to be, they're going to be with Levitt playing that way. On Monday, Lane Kiffin was asked about his receivers. Saturday, it was Jackson Harris, Trey Wilson, Winnie Watkins, and Jace Brown rotating with the 1s. Malik Elzy, Corey Barber, Phillip Wright were with the 2s. This was Lane Kiffin when he was asked if he felt like they had an elite number 1 wide receiver.
We're still working on that. We're playing a lot of guys at different spots. I feel like the receivers have done a really good job. There's a lot of really good players in the room, and it's been very competitive and just figuring out where they play best. And so even though it feels like this is game week just from our intensity, we still got some time.
So they do not. That is the answer. The most dominant receiver they have is Trey Green. And they're going to move him all over the formation. One thing that I have heard several times throughout camp is that he's dropping too many balls. Now, I saw that a couple times when we were out there, but I haven't again, when we get to go watch 10, 12 minutes of them throwing against air, it's very different than watching in a controlled scrimmage setting. But that is something worth keeping an eye on, catching the football. But as far as a true, legit number 1 game-breaking receiver, if there was one takeaway I had that maybe was a little bit of a negative was early in that scrimmage, Blake Baker was playing press. And when you're doing that, you're effectively saying, we think our cover corners are better than your receivers, so we can press you at the line and play man and bring pressure with numbers. And you can look at that and go, okay, well, is that a great thing because your corners are that good? Or are you concerned about your receiver's ability to win one-on-ones? And that's something that's going to manifest. It's very obvious. They don't have a Jamar Chase or a Justin Jefferson or a Malik Neighbors or Brian Thomas on this team. They don't. They do not have that guy that's going to be a future first-round draft pick at receiver. They don't. They don't have that guy right now. But can the system scheme them open enough to be as effective as they need to be in the passing game? That's the hope. And that's what Lane Kiffin's been able to do everywhere he's been. Look, that offense a year ago that led the SEC had 1 receiver drafted, DeJon Stribling. He's a second-round pick of the Niners. That's it. He's the only player that got drafted. So they've shown the ability to do it without elite-level talent. It's fair to say what's it going to look like when they do get elite-level talent, but that likely will have to take some time. A few more notes. Offensive line, no surprise at all with the first offensive line. I think what is notable is that when the 2s went out there, Ryan Moret was at center and Bryson Martinez was at left tackle. That's 2 true freshmen with the 2s. And remember, a week ago, Lane Kiffin was asked in a press conference about the offensive line depth, and his word was concern, that it was a concern. And when you have 2 true freshmen, when you brought in all those transfers, and 2 true freshmen have wrestled away jobs on the 2 deep, that tells you that your transfers aren't performing. Now, I know that Eric Wolford and James Craig are very high on Moret and Martinez. Like, they are the future, and they are going to be awesome. And next year, you're not going to have Braylon Moore and Jordan Seaton, so those guys feel like they are ready-made plug-and-play for next year. But you don't love that you're relying on 2 true freshmen in your 2 deep. But hat tip to those guys for going out there playing well and winning those jobs. We've talked a lot about safety. Jace Thomas ran with the 1s when they went dime. We saw a lot of TaMarcus Cooley. I think those 2 guys are going to play a ton, but I do believe Jace Thomas has won that job and will start against Clemson. Punt return, we've talked a lot about that. People asked a lot about that. Trey Wilson, Eugene Wilson from Florida, got the first reps. He's got to catch the ball. He's the most dynamic guy, but we also watch him drop a bunch of punts in spring. If he's catching the ball, he's your best. And then Scott Starzik, my goodness. Scott Starzik made, I was told, 3 kicks beyond 50 yards, including a 58-yarder. He's the Arkansas transfer. He's got an NFL leg. So does Grant Chadwick, the punter. So special teams is one of those things with Joe Houston's group that you look and say, man, you're expecting them to be even better personnel-wise than they had a year ago, and it kind of played out that direction. So just a few notes from Saturday's scrimmage in Tiger Stadium. That's the last scrimmage. They start school today. They'll practice this week. This coming Saturday is just a walkthrough. Like it's like a mock game, right? They're going to do the whole thing. They're going to go to Lod Cook. Actually, I don't know if people know this yet. They're moving back to Lod Cook. So Friday nights before games, they'll be at Lod Cook. So they'll go from Lod Cook. They'll bus to the top of the hill. They'll walk down. They'll do the whole thing. Pre-game, national anthem, the whole 9. It's basically a mock game that they'll do Saturday in Tiger Stadium, getting ready for Clemson a week from Saturday. All right, it's after further review. We're glad you're with us. We're brought to you by Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Rouse's.com, Rouse's.com. Yo, we are less than 2 weeks away from kickoff. If you are planning your tailgate, make sure Rouse's is part of your tailgate all throughout football season. Black and gold, purple and gold, they got you over at Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Man, you watch the New Orleans Saints games or the practices, you see that Rouse's patch on their practice jersey. Proud partners of the Saints over at Rouse's. So this season, all season long, home gate and tailgate, make sure you get by Rouse's. And right now, tell you all the time, check out their weekly ad. If you're buying on a budget, you want to save, they got all their specials right now. Like, how about this? Fried chicken ice cream? That's incredible. Isonova ice cream for $7.99. How about that? I've seen that on Shark Tank. It looks like fried chicken, but it's ice cream. You look perplexed, Muse.
Well, no, I am. Well, I got it now.
It tastes like ice cream. It just looks like fried chicken.
It just looks like fried chicken.
I've seen that.
Okay.
I saw it on Shark Tank. Looks really cool. You're not eating fried chicken. You're eating ice cream.
But it's just ice cream. I don't understand that.
It's like an ice cream sandwich, except it's not a sandwich. It just looks like fried chicken. And like the breaded part is probably just like a cookie or something on the outside.
Oh, that does sound good.
Yeah. Fried chicken, divine peach, strawberry romance, or golden mango.
Ooh, golden mango sounds good too.
Go get some at Rouse's, the official supermarket of the Saints. Okay, it's after further review. Thanks for hanging out with us here on a Monday edition of AFR. If you missed the news earlier today, LSU has landed its second Ole Miss transfer, Xavier Harris, the defensive lineman. Been telling you about that for days, though, that they were leading for Xavier Harris, and they popped. But they're not done, I'm telling you. That's 3 now, and they're not done. I do know they are looking to add a cornerback, quite possibly a quarterback. They have someone in mind that they're looking for. Would be a depth piece. And I think the thing maybe that's most important to keep in mind here is they're expecting more filings for temporary restraining orders leading to more injunctions. So you are very likely going to have a whole nother wave, potentially hundreds more players that hit the transfer portal that become available. Like we just talked about a number 1 receiver. Like if a number 1 receiver hits the portal, they'd add him. Any opportunity that this team has, it's very clear, to make themselves better, they're going to take it. You may not like it. Some of the guys may be in NFL camp. Some may just be on the street right now, like Junior Tui Halamaka. But it's just very clear. If they have an opportunity to improve their roster, they're going to do it. And they are so all in on this season. I mean, you've already spent more than $50 million on your roster. You paid Brian Kelly $54 million. You committed $91 million to Kiffin, all the staff, everything like that. And you've gone through 2 weeks of camp, and you know maybe where you're deficient after 2 weeks, and you have an opportunity to add a guy with 40 years of college experience to supplement your roster. They're doing it. I suspect a lot of places around the country will. As they add more, we'll tell you. Okay, stay with us here. It's AFR.
AFR.
All right, it's time to get those creative juices flowing. One of the most fun promotions that Gordon McKernan and his team do every year is the Billboard Design Contest. So it's the Gordon McKernan Billboard Design Competition. Go to getgordon.com/billboards, getgordon.com/billboards. One more time, getgordon.com/billboards. Get your design together, and you could win up to $1,000 in prizes as part of the GetGordon.com Billboard Design Contest. Adult division and a kids division. Remember, if you use AI, you might be disqualified. It's sole discretion of Gordon McKernan injury attorneys. You got to include the Gordon McKernan logo. All the entries got to be in by September the 20th, so you got a little time. And your billboard could be seen on the interstate. GetGordon.com/billboards. If you need a metal building, you need ProForm Steel. It's the easiest way to say it. The biggest differentiator with ProForm Steel is their lead times. At ProForm Steel on residential, for example, or on commercial, they carry a 10-week lead time where most businesses carry a 16 to 20-week lead time. They're a month shorter lead time than others because they do everything in-house at ProForm Steel. They produce everything in their facility: purling, sheet metal, beam, fab, all of it. If you're a big builder and you need a metal building, you want ProForm Steel. ProFormLA.com, ProFormLA.com. Go to ProFormLA.com. Top right, you'll see Get a Quote, Request a Quote. You go fill that out, give them a sense of what you're looking for. Someone will call you back same day with a quote. ProFormLA.com at ProForm Steel, and free delivery on everything, no exceptions. Buy it, they'll deliver it for free. ProFormLA.com.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and oh, we do shutters too.
Ultimately, it's the administrator's fault. The people that are screaming the loudest, the presidents, the commissioners, the people that run the NCAA, are the reason why we are at this juncture right now, because they did nothing 10, 12 years ago when they could have. They could have given these players a T-shirt and a Big Mac, and they would have gladly taken it, but they wouldn't do that because they wanted to hide behind the farcical student-athlete moniker.
Paul Feinbaum on Best Week Ever on ESPN Radio. Paul and I actually agree wholeheartedly on that. Now, he took some swipes at Lane Kiffin earlier today, and Lane was asked during his Lane Kiffin met with reporters on Monday, and it was interesting why LSU is in the spotlight when others are doing the same thing. And remember, and I get it. Like, I'm sitting in downtown Baton Rouge, 5 minutes from LSU's campus. I'm wearing a shirt that has the Our Lady of the Lake and LSU logo on it. I mean, I get how a lot of people will perceive the conversation coming from a guy who graduated at LSU and all that sort of stuff. But I think you all probably know me well enough to know opposing fans call me a homer. LSU fans call me a hater. That probably means I'm finding my way somewhere in the middle. But it is true. And Ross Dellinger joined us on Friday and told us, you know, the TRO that was granted in a Baton Rouge courtroom a week ago for 33 players, including 16 football players, is one of 18 such cases involving some 200 student athletes. The University of Texas just welcomed back an offensive lineman who was in camp with the Dallas Cowboys. There's a linebacker that got a TRO who's at James Madison and just transferred to UCLA to rejoin Bob Chesney, who was with at James Madison, is now going to UCLA. We're about to see a commitment from a running back, the running back from SMU, who is, as I'm told, a heavy lean to Missouri. So Lane Kiffin and LSU are the high-profile target, but they're hardly alone in this situation. Lane was asked about that earlier.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably easy to figure out. I mean, that's the combination of the head coach, LSU, you know, everything. And so I understand that. And that is what it is. And anytime probably like someone's first out of the gate with something, here comes the attention. And then I think as you see others where that happens at other places and other kids. And again, there's a lot of people trying to do the same thing. So this is just what happens. Sometimes, you know, when you're the benefit of a player choosing you, you're going to get all the attention of it, you know, because they chose you when a lot of other people were trying the same thing.
He's not wrong. And I am going to be really interested because the conversations I had over the weekend, just follow me here, okay? So, and for a moment, purge out of your mind, like, what you feel about the NFL, the guys in NFL camp coming back to college. Like, however you feel about that, that's not the point here, okay? I'm not trying to convince you one way or another. But just think of it this way. So a week ago in a Baton Rouge courtroom, we all paid a lot of attention because the judge granted a temporary restraining order to 33 players, including 16 football players. And now that's advanced, and we see some players who have been waived by NFL teams rejoining college teams. Okay. Well, this weekend coming is going to be NFL cuts, where all 32 rosters are going to cut from 90 down to 53. So you're going to have 1,200 players roughly become free agents. Now, not all 1,200 of those are going to be class of 2022 high school signees that played 4 seasons in 4 years that have the opportunity to come back. But there's going to be plenty of them, guys like Jack Pyburn, for example. Well, Pyburn already has his TRO. Now, a TRO, temporary restraining order, as I learned today, this is a 3-step process. A TRO is only good for 10 days. Now, a judge can extend the TRO. We'll see if they do. But after that is the preliminary injunction. So that's Monday, this coming Monday, is when all these players that were granted the TRO are going to go before Judge Will Jordan in Baton Rouge to try to get a preliminary injunction, which I presume they will. We'll see, but I presume they will. Let's say you're a player currently in camp with the Chiefs, and you're one of those 2022, I'm just throwing out the Chiefs, just whatever. You're one of those 2022 signees who played 4 seasons in 4 years, and you're in the same position as Pyburn and Xavier Harris and all these guys, right? Well, do you wait until Monday, like to wait till this weekend to see if you get cut, to then go next Monday to file for your TRO? Or do you do it this week? Do you make that move this week to be proactive? So if you're cut on Saturday, boom, by Saturday afternoon, you're back in your college town or wherever you're going to be. You're getting ahead of it. That's more likely. So that's what I was told today, is that the way it was said is there was going to be hundreds of filings this week that will probably come with mixed results. So all that to say, I get why Kiffin and LSU are the easy target. I mean, LSU has become a villain for luring Kiffin, rehiring Will Wade, now all this stuff. I get it. Like, it's what it is. And I genuinely think LSU fans, I get asked that all the time. I was doing an interview on Jocks this morning, WJOX in Birmingham. And I said, look, I genuinely think LSU fans don't care. Like, they want to win. They don't care how they're perceived otherwise. It's like, you're with us or you're against us. And if you're not with us, you're against us. And whoever, like whatever. STTDB, Cole Poosh Poosh, all that stuff. And so they'll plod on, but I am going to be interesting to see what the national narrative will be as this develops. Because, yes, Daquan Wright, Xavier Harris, these are high-profile players that had been with Ole Miss. Now they're in the NFL, and they're coming back into the SEC and transferring to LSU, despite the SEC's objection. I get that. But what I'm saying is, over the next week, there is going to be a flood of lawsuits with other players trying to get a temporary restraining order and then a preliminary injunction to regain their eligibility. And when it's not just Lane Kiffin and LSU anymore, does the narrative change at all? Or do people just continue to focus on LSU? Now, the other thing from Monday's press conference that I thought was fascinating was when Lane Kiffin talked about Todd Monken. Now, if you missed this, when Todd Monken, former LSU assistant, of course, had been in Baltimore, and now is the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. And that's where Daquan Wright was. Well, Daquan Wright was part of the TRO. And so Todd Monken, after the preseason game, was asked about the Daquan Wright situation.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I don't even know what to say. I mean, as far as I know, he's had a medical issue that wasn't allowing him to practice. That's a medical, issue. It's nothing to do with me, and then he was cleared, so we dressed him just in case we had to have him. But when you don't rep, it's hard to put him on the field. I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, I wondered why Lane Kiffin reached out a week ago. Now I know. I mean, I didn't know. Now I know. I didn't call him back. Now I guess I should have.
So Monken said that Lane Kiffin reached out about a week ago. He didn't call him back. I asked Lane Kiffin on Monday And it was interesting because Lane had just answered a question about social media and being off. He thought he'd be back. I said, well, maybe you haven't seen this if you're not on social media. But Todd Monken said you called him. And so I asked Lane, why did you feel the need to call Todd Monken? And this is what he said.
I didn't see, but T. Martin, who knows him, told me that. So I found that interesting because there's some inaccuracies in that story, but I don't know. Maybe someone else called him that said they were me, So I actually don't know Todd. So I guess somebody left him a text or call that was me because I don't know him or have his number.
That is, I'll tell you this. I'm big here on the denial, the non-denial, and all that stuff. Like, I feel like I have a pretty good radar for that stuff. And listening to Lane, especially throughout all the Ole Miss, when LSU was courting him, like, there's very obvious answers that could have been out there, and his denials and non-denial denials made it seem very obvious that he was leaving Ole Miss. Like, we talked about that plenty. Am I crazy? I actually believe him. I feel like I've listened to Lane long enough, and I get nobody outside of this bubble. Everyone is just going to Pinocchio him and call him a liar, whatever. I actually believe it. Like, why would he lie? Because his stock answer on everything has been, yeah, I'm just not going to talk about that. Like, he said that 5 times today. He just said, yeah, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to comment on that. Like, if he was calling Todd Monken to get permission to discuss Daquan Wright, and he didn't want to answer the question, he could say, I'm not going to talk about players recruiting, whatever, because they're recruits. That's what he said for 5 different answers. Why would he lie and say, I didn't call Todd Monken? Covering Lane Kiffin ain't never going to be boring, y'all. I mean, this is going to, I mean, they ain't even played a game yet. Like, what's going to happen when they actually play football? Clemson and College Game Day, and what they beat Clemson by 40? And then you got all this on top of it? I mean, see how it goes. Tigers had Daquan Wright. Now they've added Xavier Harris on top of Junior Tuihalamaka. And as I understand it, more to come. Okay, it's after further review. Monday shows are brought to you by Relief Windows. Let me knock out a quick break. Jon Stinchcomb is going to jump aboard with us, talk some Saints Rams. It's AFR.
AFR.
We're brought to you by Clegg's Nursery with 4 locations in the greater Baton Rouge area. Siegen near Airline, LA 16 in Denham, Mid-City on Donmore, and the Garden Center on Greenwell Springs. Tell you every day to buy local and shop local. Get on by, bypass the big box store, and support our friends over at Clegg's Nursery. Man, they got some beautiful flowers that are there right now. How about the the 5-gallon Colorama Scarlet Crepe Myrtle. New stock. Get a 20-foot red bloomer for just $29.99. You're going to plant that beautiful crepe myrtle. You can do it right now, and you can do it courtesy of our friends over at Clegg's Nursery. So get by any of their 4 locations. You know where they are. Siegen near Airline, LA 16 in Denham, Mid-City on Donmore, and the Garden Center on Greenwell Springs. Also, deer hunters, they got buck busters, they got mow bucks, they got deer corn. They got it all over at Clegg's Nursery. So as you're setting out those plots, before you do, get by and see our friends at Clegg's Nursery. Buy local, shop local at Clegg's Nursery.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and oh, we do shutters too.
Obviously, we're going to have to watch the film really closely because, your gut reaction is obviously we want to accomplish more, as an offense. We have the unfortunate interception in the first half. We have one in the red zone in the second half where we're driving. And so, we're just going to have to watch this film and get better. I thought those guys had some really good work throughout this entire week. And obviously, as a team collectively, we didn't take advantage of this opportunity today.
That was Kellen Moore after the Saints lost to the Rams, talking about his backup quarterbacks, Zach Wilson and Spencer Rattler. A day to forget for both. Jon Stinchcomb was on the call. He's good enough to join us for a couple of minutes here. Great to have you back, man. Thank you for the time. How are you?
I'm great, Matt. Appreciate you having me.
Man, it's our pleasure, and we appreciate you squeezing us in. We can start there with the quarterbacks. I think we were both maybe hoping to see a little more. Do you take any positives away from Saturday with those guys?
Not from the game.
Yeah.
The reports from the week of the battles that they had with the Cowboys and the Rams and the joint practices, those were very positive. It sounded like they got great work. But I don't know if there was very many redeeming qualities from that game on Saturday.
Do you ever have one like that?
Anyone.
Yeah, do you ever have one like that, John? A preseason game that you just that went like that? I just don't remember.
Not that I can think of.
Yeah.
We said off the air, Joel and I were looking at each other, and we've called Saints preseason games for 13 or 14 years now, and that one might have been one of the least impressive games that we've witnessed. And yeah, I think there's a number of factors there, and you don't want to point to excuses, but you also want to be realistic of how the valuation of preseason games has changed over the years.
Would you mind elaborating a little?
Yeah, well, they used to have 4 preseason games, and preseason game number 1, the starters played for about a quarter. Preseason 2, you played about a half. Preseason game number 3, you played into that third quarter, and you didn't really take your starters out or rest until the 4th game, and that was across the board. And now you start these games with a list of players from both sides that you've blacked out half the roster of starters and some second stringers that don't even dress. And a lot of that has to do with the work that they get in more controlled environments of those joint practices. But that's just how it's evolved and how teams use preseason games. It used to be a part of that ramp-up process, and it inevitably and undeniably it's changed how the teams across the board have used it. There's not very many starters unless there's a position battle or a new coach that are getting a ton of quarters and time in these preseason games.
Yeah. John, was there a player or maybe a position group where you thought guys had a really a great opportunity that missed the opportunity on Saturday?
Well, you're looking at the wide receiver position and backup running back position, especially with Kamara down, that you're hoping that somebody just grabs the reins on those. I think we all think that Kendre Miller has the talent to be a major contributor during the season. His biggest stumbling block has always been health for him, but got to see him a little bit, and then there were others that are competing. Devin Neal comes back from a hamstring, only to lead the game with a hamstring. Ty Chandler impressed in week 1, and then fumbles near the goal line on Saturday, and C.J. Donaldson brings something to the table that the others don't, and that big frame and physicality. And, you're hoping that those kind of battles start to trickle out, and you've got some clear answers. I think the same thing holds true at the wide receiver position. Obviously, with the injury to Jordan Tyson, there's more opportunity there. And I don't know whether it was, just wasn't a great performance across the board, but Bub Means and Austin Jr. are guys that they're competing to make this roster, and it's hard to evaluate who brings more value when the overall performance was as, let's call it, disappointing as it was.
Super Bowl champion, former Saint Jon Stinchcomb is with us on the call for the Saints preseason games, as you mentioned, with Joel Myers. It's hard to talk about the Saints this preseason, John, without talking about injuries. I mean, everybody has them. It feels like this has been an excessive amount. First of all, just is this an excessive amount, or does this feel par for the course for you, having gone through a double-digit of these?
I think there are more, and with the exception of Brzee, right out of the gates with his ACL, I think the good news on that front is they seem short-term. At least most of them you're coming back in a few weeks is the timeline, with the exception of Jordan Tyson, who appears to be a couple of months. And his timeline's a little bit longer. With that said, it's hit every position group, and I think you saw it from defensive tackle to the wide receivers, the running backs. It's across the board. Quincy Riley, cornerback. Yeah. It's a lot of injuries that are spread out, and I'm sure they're trying to, they being the brass on the second floor over at 5800 Airline, are trying to figure out, is that something that we're doing? Is that something that we need to adjust? But again, thankfully, they seem to be more short-term injuries, soft tissue things, ankles and whatnot, that you can recover from. And with that 1 week off between preseason and game number one, the hopes are that your roster is a little bit healthier when you roll into the season.
Is there a player or position group that you think is most significant when we talk about these injuries going into the final preseason game?
Well, the D-line certainly sticks out to me, in that, Kristen Miller had flashed briefly when he was available in that preseason game number one, but he was stunted because of injuries during OTAs, and the same thing for training camp, and then wasn't available very much during the joint practices following preseason game number one. Godshow's been down. I mean, that D-line, even after you get past the Brzee injury, they've faced a lot of uphill, and that's a position group that, I think they need time on task together. That one sticks out to me the most, probably.
Jon, is it a thing where, the old adage in the NFL, like, you're never staying the same. You're getting better, you're getting worse. Like, are they going into this week, this final week of the preseason, looking to add to the roster, or get the guys that you have better?
Well, they just picked up Daniel Carlson and Zamir White in a trade and a sign.
Yeah.
So they're obviously trying to improve their roster. I think this, if I'm being honest, Matt, you look at their roster and they're much further along than they were a year ago. And health needs to come together, as it has in years past. But for the teams that are able to make these runs, and the seasons are long and brutal, you try to stay healthy, A, and B, you have to have the depth in spots to where you can weather the storm when those injuries do happen. And I think that's something that the Saints are continuing to build. They've got an upgraded starting lineup from where they were at least last year, maybe even the year before that, and going back a couple years. But you're trying to get that depth where you can be competitive for 17 regular season games and be in position to make an impact after that in the postseason.
Jon, last thing for you. I had a buddy who, let's call him a well-known New Orleans restaurateur, who texted me on Saturday after the game, just distraught. I said, "Hey man, if 6 wasn't on the field, I ain't even sweating it."
Yep.
And I guess let's punctuate this with a positive, because it sounded like the joint practices actually went really well. That's 2 weeks in a row now where the joint practices have gone really well for the Saints. I don't know if you got to watch the joint practice, Jon, if you were just there for the game, but if you were there or just talking to people around the organization, what are the positives they took from last week with the joint practices, independent of the game?
Yeah, so the reports that I got from people that were there and have a clue, including Teron Armstead, who was all of them.
Tons of credibility there, yeah.
Yeah, so let's start with somebody that's credible, that I value as a source. He felt like we got the better end of the stick against Jacksonville and Dallas and the Rams in all the joint practices. That's a huge statement. And, when you're coming off a game where you get thumped 34-0, I think we need that grain of salt to realize that there is no Chase Young, there's no Tyler Shuck, there's no Achane, there's all the players that we expect to see and make a huge impact. They weren't available in these preseason games, but yet when they have been available and when it's good on good versus some of the very best this NFL has to offer. Dallas's offense was number one offense in the country last year, and the Rams roster might be the most loaded of any team heading into this season. So you're competing against really good teams that expect to make deep runs, a playoff team against Jacksonville included. And for our best against their best to come out and you say, we did more than just hold our own. I think that is the positive signs that any team is hoping for. You want that to be reflected in the preseason games. Those are different players. And anytime you go out there and you got a Fleur-de-Lis on your helmet and you represent the black and gold, you need to understand the weight of that, and you want it to be honored. But for the guys that were not available, the ones, if you will, the guys that are going to be playing for the Saints, they seem to have won their matchups more often than not in those joint practices, and I think that's a really positive sign for what this season can hold for the Saints.
Well said. One more crack at it. Saturday night against Dallas. They're at AT&T Stadium. Jon Stinchcomb will be on the call. Hey, man, we always appreciate the time. Thanks so much for jumping aboard and giving us a few minutes.
You got it, my man.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Super Bowl champion Jon Stinchcomb, an all-time great. Georgia Bulldog. I love getting Jon's perspective. The offensive linemen are always the smartest. Great perspective. There was nothing redeeming from the game, and you would love to have seen guys play better, and it certainly makes you question the depth. But they're never staying the same. You're getting better, you're getting worse, and the Saints are actively trying to bring in players to get better, which we'll talk about Ross Jackson here in about 15 minutes. Some of the players they added and what that may mean. But when the dudes that are going to be suiting it up in Detroit week 1 were going ones-on-ones, good on good against the Rams and the Cowboys and the Jaguars, they had the upper hand. And that matters more than getting your head kicked in with a bunch of dudes that are going to, be selling insurance next week. Respect to insurance salespeople, by the way. All right, let me knock out a break. Come back. We used to do Tigers and the Pros. It's AFR.
AFR.
Love telling you about River City's 1 hour air where they're always on time or you don't pay a dime. 752-0001, 752-0001, 752-0001, or 1hourbr.com. Spell it out. You see their big yellow vans and trucks all over town because so many of your friends and neighbors trust River City's 1 hour air just like I do. So does Darier Jackson, who sent this 5-star review. Great experience from start to finish. From the convenience of online booking to friendly follow-up call for confirmation to Brett's friendly and professional introduction upon arrival. He was thorough, communicated the diagnosis and options. Highly recommended. Another 5-star Google review. I can read them forever. They got double the amount of 5-star Google reviews of the next closest competitor because for 40 years, they've done great work at a fair price, and they've been friendly, service with a smile. They're always on time, or you don't pay a dime at River City's 1 hour air. 752-0001, 752-0001, 752-0001 for River City's 1 hour air. Amigo Al's. No worries, Muse. You just got to push the button. I get it. It's 4:51. That makes sense. But instead of that, Muse, maybe you should have a margarita from Amigo Al's. They're delicious. At Amigo Al's, remember, newest concept from Brandon and Mackenzie Landry, who bring you Supper Club, of course. Amigo Al's is Mexican with just better ingredients. Everything is higher quality, fresh ingredients. Sometimes you drink a margarita and it's like just a bucket of sugar water and bad tequila. Not Amigo Al's. Everything, the best ingredients. Same with their food. And while they're on Highway 30 in St. Gabriel, right? So if you're leaving LSU, by the way, LSU students, get to know Amigo Al's. It's going to be your new spot. You're going south on Nicholson. You pass a U Club about a quarter mile on the left. But if you don't live by there, no worries. DoorDash, Uber Eats, all the third-party delivery apps have Amigo Al's delivered to you on this Monday night. Check it out, y'all. It's Amigo Al's.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding. And we do shutters too.
Wrapping up hour number 2. We're glad you're with us. The Saints did make they made a trade and then added a kicker. Ross Jackson, in about a dozen minutes, he'll fill us in on all that. But right now, Muso has Tigers in the Pros.
Tigers in the Pros. They still bleed purple and gold. They're just really rich now.
Kayshon Boutte, he's on the move.
Nope. Dang it.
Nope. But he's going from the Patriots to the Texans, the trade involving the two teams. Houston acquires Kayshon Boutte. They need receiver help. A couple guys down, including Jalen Higgins, who is lost for the year. So they replace those two with Kayshon Boutte. And in exchange, New England gets safety Jalen Reed and a 2028 7th-round draft selection. Boutte was entering the final year of his rookie contract and was kind of the odd man out there after New England added A.J. Brown. In fact, he requested a trade. Now he's got that closer to home, all those things. Hoping for a really good season there for Kayshon Boutte. Cade Anderson made his major league. No, he went to St. Paul's.
Well, he should have gone to Cal.
He went to St. Paul's.
He should have gone.
He made his major league debut on Saturday, and you know what? It was really good considering the lineup he went up against. First time in the big leagues, 5 2/3, 3 earned, 2 walks, 5 punch-outs for Anderson. Got the no decision. First major league strikeout came in the first inning against Alex Bregman. A little change-up away swinging. Great pitch. Awesome moment. And then Bregman turned around in the 6th inning. Got Anderson back. 19th home run of the season for Alex Bregman there. His one hit in that ball game. Cam Sanders, our guy.
Cali High!
No. Shutout inning of relief, though.
Yeah, should have.
For the Orioles yesterday. 9 pitches, 5 strikes. No walks, no strikeouts. Really good stuff there. And Dylan Cruz, 2 for 4. Big day for him. 13th double and an RBI in that one. And we'll wrap it up here with Flau'jae Johnson. She dropped 26, 6, and 3 in that game. Dominant effort. That's Tigers and Pros.
Presented by Shaw Bills Tire and Auto Service. ShawBillsTire.com. ShawBillsTire.com. You know, as summer winds down, it's a great time to give your vehicle a quick checkup. Inspect your tire pressures, your tread, check the fluid levels, make sure your battery's ready for the season ahead. A little maintenance now that can help keep you moving smoothly into fall. Friendly reminder from our friends over at Shaw Bills. Shaw Bills Tire and Auto Service, ShawBillsTire.com. You want to schedule service, you can do so. Go to ShawBillsTire.com, shop tires, schedule service, whatever may be going on with your vehicle. You'll be greeted with a friendly smile and a great business that's been in business for nearly 60 years, treating you right. It's Shaw Bills Tire and Auto Service. ShawBillsTire.com, ShawBillsTire.com. Shaw Bills, where we keep you rolling. And by the way, happy 5th anniversary at Shaw Bills to James Smith Jr. He's the technician over on Coursey Boulevard. So shout out to James. Happy 5-year anniversary with Shaw Bills. All right, it's after further review. Here comes SportsCenter. We'll get you caught up on national headlines, talk to Ross Jackson, more from Lane Kiffin, what he had to say earlier today. Ton to do. Stay here. It's AFR.
AFR.
Okay, it stormed earlier today. Water, now it's hot and humid. What does that mean? Mold. Why is Louisiana the mold capital of the world? Because it's wet and it's humid. That's a breeding ground for mold. That's why you need Parish Restoration. Go to parishrestoration.com, parishrestoration.com. It's mold remediation done right the first time, parishrestoration.com. Told you about my buddy, Mr. Jim Wardworth, for years. Awesome. He's a veteran, Air Force vet, retired, began his career, was post 9/11 recovery in New York City, moved back down to the South for the BP oil spill, stayed now, runs Parish Restoration. Kill mold, remove odor, other harmful pathogens. I mean, what if you bought a house that smells because people had pets or it was a smoker? You want to get rid of that odor? Sweat odor. You could do it. Parish Restoration. They'll spray their patented non-toxic dry fog treatment. Go to parishrestoration.com.